I don't care if you don't like what I'm saying to you. What matters is that I'm saying it because I care about you. And I want you to experience the demon that's sitting inside you, causing you not to make that money, not to have that life that you want. That's what it takes. So I tell people, go find something that scares you and do it anyway.
Welcome to Start With a Win, where we give you the tools and lessons you need to create business and personal success. Are you ready? Let's do this.
And coming to you from Brand Viva Media Studios, it's Adam Contos with Start With a Win. Hello, producer Mark. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing so good.
Awesome. Hey, it's great to see you today. Are you fired up?
I'm fired up.
You ready to maximize your potential?
You know what? I'm always ready to maximize my potential. Yeah, today we got Wylie McGraw. What a great name.
Oh, I love that name.
And starting with a win.
And he's a cool dude, too.
Exactly. You know, Wylie is a former star pitcher, competitive bull rider, and a 3-tour combat veteran. Thank you for your service, good sir. It was through those intense experiences that he discovered his crazy superpower of being able to expose blind spots, erupt and eradicate stress, and fully unleash the untapped potential of high achievers. He's the founder of Radical Performance Acceleration, and for well over a decade now, he's been behind the scenes doing life-altering work with powerful CEOs, entrepreneurs, leaders, and public figures. Wylie, welcome to Start With a Win.
Welcome, Wylie.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the introduction as well.
It's great to have you here, my friend. As Mark said, thank you for your service. You instruct a lot of people. You coach a lot of CEOs, a lot of businesses, things like that, on how to create this peak performance instead of letting these little bumps in the road really take your day away from you or your progress away from you. How did you get to where you are today doing this? Give us a little bit of readout on your background and when you started recognizing peak performance.
Ooh, that's we could spend an hour here. Obviously, we don't have that time, but long story short, being thrusted into this competitive athletic household, my father being that semi-pro ball player, everything right out of the gate, I would say out of the womb, it was almost like I was molded into learning about mindset and situational awareness and being present and learning how to, hone in focus. As a young man, being a very creative mind, being focused was initially a struggle, but eventually got to the point of being this athlete, this star pitcher, being trained by the pros, because of my father's connections, really allowed me to start understanding the definition of my own performance. And as I got older and I started to recognize unique qualities about myself when I was under stress and the way I performed. And then I broke away from this expectation of being a baseball player and chased after the world that I wanted to experience, which was bull riding, intuitively just came to me. It was in those wild environments that I really recognized that we're caught up in the definitions and concepts of performance. We're caught up in this idea of chasing growth and what's next for ourselves rather than being put into the right challenging environments, facing our fears, learning what that even means to be outside of a comfort zone rather than getting excited or high on the idea of it. And in that world of rodeo, being threatened by potential harm, death, etc., it forced me to learn about myself as a human being and to redefine what performance was.
Awesome. It's truly amazing. And you mentioned a couple of things here I want to unpack briefly. I mean, so first of all, you talked about bull riding, competitive bull riding. For our listeners, if you have not experienced, after the show, I want you to go on YouTube and watch some competitive bull riding and watch the rider and the animal and everything going on around him, because it can be one of the most chaotic and dangerous moments ever. And I mean, people do die doing this stuff. You want to see somebody who can, and you mentioned in the moment and this self-awareness. Finding this self-awareness, I believe, and as you put it, is this superpower that you realize in order to help other people find their self-awareness. Why can't people do that? I mean, and how do you help people accomplish recognizing awareness and getting into that?
So much to unpack there. Well, we'll start with, I'm really fortunate that baseball started getting me accustomed to the situational awareness aspect of it. When you're a pitcher, you've got to learn your opponent's skill sets. When you're throwing specific types of pitches, which is why I was trained by the California Angels pitching staff to learn to perfect this arsenal that I had. I had to learn how to throw curveballs, sliders, etc. Is because when you have a player at the bat, you got to know what her strengths are, what his weaknesses are. It's a game of chess.
Right.
So you're learning how to perform under the pressures. So what really I translate it into the world that we're living in right now is because people are too close to the problems they face. They are emotionally attached to them. They don't understand what their emotions are trying to tell them. There's no space in their mind to address a solution to the problem, if you will. They're so caught up in the stress that plagues them. There's nothing that allows them to stretch that capacity to understand, like you and I talked about before the show, is we had technical issues. What do? Well, we modify our approach to the objective. In the military, it's the same way. We have that awareness to go, okay, we may have an op order. We may have this mission set out, but combat is different and things are wild. And when you get presented with more enemy fighters than you were actually your intelligence told you, what do? You panic, you stress out, you flip out because it didn't work the way you thought it was going to do, or you pivot, you detach, and you learn to approach it from a place of presence because your training kicks in. In the world we live in right now, especially with our leaders, I call them demons. People are plagued by their own personal demons from stress, trauma, life's setbacks, negative experiences. And what they do is they let that define who they are. And then they try to compartmentalize themselves to get things done. And then they wonder why nothing actually is where they really want it to be. And they don't realize they're dragging around all of these elements of their lives they've never actually faced. And for me, I put these leaders in these positions to challenge them, to really make them face those demons so we can battle them and eradicate them, because the byproducts will be exponential growth, better performance, clearer mind, more focus, better health, an experience that most humans really want. So that's the problem that I constantly see out in the world today.
I see so many people making excuses for stopping instead of giving themselves permissions to adapt.
Right.
When did we get into this excuse world where we're like, oh...
Well, you know what? If I'm going to candidly say this out loud, and
go for it.
I don't, but the personal development industry has created this. It has given people the permission to take their time when it comes to growth, take their time when it comes to challenge. They give this atmosphere, this sugar high of everything feels motivated and excited when you go to programs, seminars, concert-like events, when you hire coaches, you do these online courses, gives human beings the luxury of comfort. But it creates a false narrative in your mind that you're actually getting outside your comfort zone because it might seem hard to do that coaching program or that system that you're being presented. And then we get caught up in this rat race, this idea that growth takes time, that it's supposed to be somewhat under your control. And at the end of the day, what happened in our society as a $200 billion industry is people are allowed to control the resources they hire. So they don't have people they cannot control that will challenge them and push them beyond their limits. That's the nature of what's missing in our world, is people are too comfortable in the concept of being uncomfortable, and they're not actually getting into these environments that really challenge them to face who they really are. And people are afraid of facing their truth. So we chalk it up to, oh, that's just your perspective, or that's just your opinion, or that's just your truth versus my truth. And then the world right now is separated, and everybody's trying to argue from this weird perspective, and nobody's getting to the real answers or solutions to solve the problems that we face. That is the biggest hang up. Yeah.
Mic drop right there, buddy. It's interesting. People spend their lives chasing this peak performance and rationalizing, good enough is good enough, or minimum necessary. And my wife has this term in the gym, and she's trained and things like that. Spectacular woman. She's like, you have to do death plus 2. I love this because you go until you can't go anymore. And I apply this to business and life and things like that also, but it's go until you can't go anymore and you're still alive. So you still have a couple more left. So go to until you feel like you're dying, but you're still alive. And then give me 2 more. Whatever it might be, 2 more minutes of focus on this business piece, 2 more options in order to close this deal, 2 more marketing phrases to send out the door, things like that, instead of going, I did what I needed to. No,
right.
You haven't done enough. So why are people? they spend their life chasing this. Let me just flip the question here to how can they maximize this potential now? And what are you telling clients in order to get more out of them?
Well, again, the nature of my work, I work with these prominent and powerful people because they have the biggest impact on the masses. I'm built to do that work. I've tried to work with people at a different level, and they just can't handle the intensity and the level of like self-mastery that I require, that I put them through, because the work that I do is about integrating into the lives of these individuals. I travel with them. I live with them. So people are not accustomed to that type of integration. But for those that are not at that level, that are like, hey, but how I want that for myself, and what do I do? It's always about truly getting into the environments that scare you. If it does not shock you, it will not change you. And the idea that we define change as real transformation is the other aspect of it. The reason why people are chasing it is because they are afraid of doing what really actually makes them the best version of themselves. Human beings are really accustomed to the comforts of life. When you talk about elite, why do you think the elite are the elite? They don't make excuses. They don't worry about how they're going to change. They don't worry about how they're going to transform. They don't worry about how you're going to make them do something. They just go, I want it. I'm focused. I'm disciplined, and I'm committed to this. And I don't care what it looks like, how it feels, or what it's going to do to me. What I care about is what I see myself on the other side. So I tell people is you got to start, even if you're at the bottom of the barrel, find a coach, find a resource, go bungee jumping, go skydiving, go dancing because you might be afraid to dance. Do something that's really going to actually make you feel complete anxiety outside of your control and uncomfortable, but knowing that the environment you just committed to is part of your growth. That's when you know it's the right place to be. And everybody wants to control how it sounds, what it's supposed to look like. Therapists tell people it's supposed to feel comfortable, take it easy, don't go there.
Right.
I don't. I don't care if you don't like what I'm saying to you. What matters is that I'm saying it because I care about you. And I want you to experience the demon that's sitting inside you, causing you not to make that money, not to have that life that you want. That's what it takes. So I tell people, go find something that scares you and do it anyway.
I have a feeling internally, and I truly believe in this, that discomfort is the best therapy. 100%. I mean, it's, you therapists bring out your, this doesn't feel good because, go live it. Go get in that discomfort. That's a personal trainer brings out your discomfort also. And guess what happens? You get better. A coach unlocks potential. That's the definition of coaching, is somebody who unlocks your potential.
Right.
And gets you to move more, better, stronger, faster, smarter, things like that, because they're willing to put you in those uncomfortable situations. Tell me about the word accountability, and how do you build that into this growth pattern?
We're not approaching humans from the place of grounding them in truth, letting them see who they really are. We're letting them get away with their dysfunctions because of this idea of it's my right, it's freedom. I have every right to do what I want to. There's no containment. We don't have proper containment. Accountability is containment. Freedom comes from containment. That's what a constitution is. Your discipline comes from your ability to care. Containment creates freedom. And that is where you can allow yourself to experience a next evolution of your life. And that's what I need people to pay attention to and be willing to do for themselves. Right?
Awesome. Everybody, make sure you check out Wylie McGraw at wyliemcgraw.com. Wylie, I have a question I ask all of our super achievers on this show, and I'm sure you have an amazing answer to this. How do you start your day with a win?
How do I start my day with a win?
Yes.
Besides getting out of bed on time? I practice Kung Fu. I meditate. I take care of my body. It's all about exercise. For me, I got to get moving. One of the things I found is if I'm not moving, I notice my energy is different. So for me, getting up in the morning, getting out in the cold, seeing the sunlight and exercising for 45 minutes, that's the way my day kicks off with a bang. If I miss that, I kind of notice a little bit of a difference.
Awesome. Wylie McGraw, you bring a lot of opportunity and effort towards that peak performance in the leaders around the world. I hope our listeners got something out of this, because I certainly did. I have a page full of notes here that I've been kind of scribbling down in our conversation. If it does not shock you, it will not change you. I absolutely love that, and it resonates with me, as does the rest of this. Everybody, make sure you check out Wylie. Wylie, first of all, thank you for your service to our country.
Likewise, brother.
Thank you. And thank you for starting with a win.
Absolutely.
And thank you for listening to Start With a Win. Hey, if you've been struggling with time management and you're ready to get on track, head over to adamcontos.com/foolproof time system. There you can get Adam's secrets on how he performs at a high level and how he manages his time. So thank you so much. And remember, until next time, start with a win. All right. Here we are.
The secret YouTube edition.
The secret YouTube edition. The party after the party.
That's it.
That's right. One thing I wanted to ask you about is, for the person who, like wants to start moving in a positive direction but they feel like they're in a slump or they feel like they can't get themselves out of the rut. Like, what are some things that someone can start doing right away in order to take action? Maybe it's almost, like they don't really want to do it, but it's like, okay, if I start doing these things, this will then produce this result, which will then produce this result, which will then help me get kind of like starting that engine,
It's a good question. There's so many different variables to that for an answer. It really does start out with the small wins, the decisions to do things like, get out of bed. We're leaders in our own lives, and leadership starts when you get up out of bed and make your bed. Those are one of the beautiful things that give you a win right about. You see, I accomplished that task, and I know it's cliche. We hear it all over the place, but I'm just going to reiterate it to people is, those little things add up. And when you commit to the little things, they build upon your desire and your ability to then start committing to the bigger things that seem usually daunting at the time. What we try to do, unfortunately, is we try to jump ahead. We see an idea of what we want for ourselves, and then we project ourselves mentally and even emotionally into that space rather than being present and going, how do I build myself the right way, holistically? We get caught up in, how do I copy somebody's routine and do it exactly like them? And then they get burned out 30 days later because 4 o'clock in the morning is probably not for you to get up. Maybe you shouldn't be doing relentless exercise on a daily basis the way they do it. Maybe you're not meant to be a Navy SEAL. Stop trying to be one. So it's almost like giving yourself permission to be compassionate with who you are first. And then starting off with those small wins, like getting up in the morning and going, what am I going to do today that's going to better the experience that I have the rest of the day? Well, maybe I need to have that conversation I've been avoiding for a month. Maybe I need to confront that employee that's not performing the way I want them to. Maybe I need to just get real with myself and say, am I truly happy with where I'm at right now? And what does it take for me to stimulate more momentum for myself? Because my compassion comes from, in fact, I'm built this way, but also that human beings are too caught up in the compartmentalization and overthinking of everything. We get caught up in copying and mimicking and emulating others that have what we say we want. We don't discover who we are. We don't realize that who we are matters more than what we do. And at the end of the day, for me, the way I approach the work that I do is getting these leaders who have this big impact back to the basics of who they really are. I strip them down back to who they are meant to actually be, because everything that they've accomplished has been on the back of stress and chaos and has not been from a place of a compassionate, natured version of themselves, who they really feeling their authentic nature unleashed in a way that they've always wanted. So what's going to happen when you have people that are following those people? They're going to do the same thing. And then we have this relentless, never ending cycle of chaos and stress and people chasing and trying to figure life out rather than mastering it for themselves by starting off, like you said. How do you start off with the win? Get out of bed, exercise, drink water. For goodness sake, people are not drinking enough water in the mornings. Eat decent foods. Getting up in the morning, drinking coffee right away, then going to a donut shop is not going to help you perform when you want to make $100,000 a year in your business. It's not going to do it. It's going to hinder you.
Yeah,
that's essentially what I would say.
Yeah, and I think one thing I would add to that too is start surrounding yourself with people who push you out of your comfort zone.
That's like, the other thing is
it's like Adam's my friend. Yeah. And it's like, I think about him, right. To be like, oh man, like, how do I need to show up, so that I can continue to run a race with this guy, and so it's encouraging, to put people around you who also will subconsciously push you to be a better version of yourself too.
Well, that's the thing is you hear it all the time. You surround yourself with the 5 people that are going to be whatever that adage goes. I don't get caught up in these adages, but I understand what they mean. It is true.
Yeah, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with.
That's what it is. Yeah. But connecting to the energies of people. See, we get lost in this idea that there's no effect on energy. We're all these silos at the end of the day. That's not true whatsoever. We get out of our heads logically and realize who we're around, the environments that we're in affect our ability to perform in our lives. The environments matter, right? Bull riding, that was an environment that mattered. Military, it matters. The things that you put yourself into, look at them objectively and say, is this conducive to me meeting the version of myself that I say I want to meet? If the answer is not 100% hell yes, get the hell out of there and go find another environment. Even if it's scary, walk up to people that you think are these celebrity type personalities and shake their hand. Say, look, I just wanted to say hi to you. That might stimulate some motivation. That might move some energy inside you. You don't have to become friends with them or have them mentor you. I mean, it's the same thing when I got out of the military. I just started going to conferences and meetings and just walking up to the biggest people and shaking their hand. That's it. Started, hey, look, I'm kind of a weirdo. I do this crazy stuff. I'm looking to better myself. And I just thought it was really cool what you said up there. And they're like, wow, who the hell are you? And it's just this confidence of facing that fear that these guys are going to reject me or not accept me, broke me through different variables of the environments I decided to keep myself in, which is where I found my performance was always maximized. Yeah.
That's so good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, hey, Wylie, thanks so much for being on Start With a Win. And
thank you guys for having me.
And thank you for hanging out with us here after the party. Hopefully this content was valuable to you. If you enjoyed it, please share. That always is helpful. Hit that thumbs up icon and subscribe. That always helps us reach more people with this positive, great, encouraging content. So until next time, we'll see you when we see you.